my mission is to uncover the past, present, starting with, you know, pre-emancipation, post-emancipation, Berry Farms then, Berry Farm now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a part of that is the new development that's going to be taking place in that community. A lot of people, you know, they're doing the what they call it, new communities.
Yeah.
So they're going to redo the housing situation. A lot of people have to move out, you know, with the hopes that they can move back in. But this is how a lot of people get displaced, you know, all over the world. And it's funny that when I walked in here to interview you, I find this forced migration, you know, review, protracted displacement. Increasingly displaced people remain displaced for years, even decades. I mean, we assess the impact of this on people's lives and our societies, and we explore the solutions, political, humanitarian, and personal. So they basically talking about from Sri Lanka to, you know, some of the African nations to the United States.
Well, it's interesting, you know, that's how we get D.C., by displacing people off their property. And, you know, you go back to the history of the Koch-Tank Indians, especially in Berry Farms. That was the area, you know, Berry Farms in the area of D.C. that's now turned Anacostia. Anacostia is in the Koch-Tank name. So, you know, that's one of the first times that, you know, people of color were displaced from this time. So I mean, there's been an upheaval. We talk about different upheavals all over the world, and we lose sight of what's going on, right? You know, we lose sight of what's going on right next door. You know, so that's one of the main things that we need to start looking at. As we look outside of the United States, remember that everything that happens outside is happening inside.
No doubt.
Right. So that's one of the things we definitely should look into, because we've been getting displaced out of that area for hundreds of years, for at least the last 200 years now, of being shifted and pushed out of that area and brought back under different conditions, and shifted back out and brought back under different names. But that's the only thing, that the people don't change. It's only the name.
True indeed.
You know?
True indeed.
And so if you go beyond Morris Road, you're going to get W Street and various other streets. And of course, W Street and V Street and the other streets were named for presidents. But somewhere along the line, they changed the names to fit the grid patterns on the other side of the river. This community was one big community, and a lot of separation began to come to the community with a lot of development.
The demographic changes that are happening are one of two things. One is part of relocation, and that's been going on since the city was founded, really. Shifting people, poor people, from one end of the city to the other, or even just out of the city altogether. In Berry Farms in particular, when they started the public housing projects during and after the Second World War, it isolated these communities. You know, and then you had in the 50s the freeway, Southeast Freeway, and the Frederick Douglass Bridge, and all that stuff. So it isolated them from the rest of the city. So there was no, whatever development was going on in the city didn't happen. They were left in neglect and poverty, which was the intention.
But with that being said, many of the original homes that were built in Berry Farm were knocked down in the 40s through the 50s with the United States Slum Clearance Act in the 40s and the National Highway Act in the 40s.
But someone asked about the development coming to the area, and can we talk a little bit about the development?
Well, I really think it's going to impact the community quite hard and harshly, because the community as a whole don't think they're going to move anywhere. They got half of the property think they're going to move, half of think that with the way they're being planned now, they're not going to move, and some just don't care.
I got turned on to Berry Farm because Berry Farm was designated in 2005 by the New Community Initiative Act to be raised, and for a new community, a mixed use and a mixed income community to be sort of erected in its place. And I thought that this was the same thing happening over and over again. Same thing that caused the riots in North New Jersey at that time. It's the same thing that's happening in Barry Farm.
It fits a pattern, I would say, which is that most cases gentrification starts out as revitalization. So nobody says they're going to do gentrification when they start out. At least they don't announce it as gentrification. It's always revitalization. So either the government or private sector decide they want to start putting resources into a low-income area, and they usually do it, particularly the private sector does it because land prices are so low because the place is already very, low income or burned out or whatever, that kind of thing. So in the case of Barry Farms, you have the government deciding to revitalize, and so they do the things that normally are the first procedures. You put in public transportation, like a metro stop. You start to fix up the infrastructure, like the roads. You might build some public buildings, like an office building, or house some branches of something there. You invite the private sector back, so you get all the developers interested and excited. You start selling off public land, either because that's the cheapest thing to sell, or it might be the only thing that's still vacant. Some cities even will take away, property that have absentee landlords and use that as part of the revitalization. The new thing now is to do what's happening at Barry Farm, which is to somehow include the citizens, at least have come and have meetings with them in their neighborhood. And so that's sort of the newest piece, because before all this used to happen, in back rooms downtown, and you didn't go to the neighborhoods and talk to people. So now it's supposed to be more humane because you're supposed to get community input.
People who have a low income, and so that's a class issue, right? Just economically. Doesn't say anything about their mental state or their sense of community and family and what their ultimate dreams and desires and goals are. But it sends a signal to the public, well, they're poor and black. And so beyond that, there's nothing else that you need to think about.